I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar on midterm evaluation of the Global Development Assistance Program. So this is one of a series of webinars hosted by Caribou Space and Imperative Space that forms part of the monitoring and evaluation activity of the ESA Global Development Assistance. The GDA Mid-Term Evaluation was published in September by Caribou as part of an ongoing M&E and impact assessment activity. And for those who haven't seen it yet, the GDA Mid-Term Evaluation report is available on the GDA website. Today, we will be discussing some of the progresses made so far by the GDA program, and we will also share some recommendations for how to continue to take steps towards even more mainstreaming with the IFI partners. But before I continue, I would like just to remember that the conversation will be recording, and the recording will be available on the GDA website soon. Okay, so today's agenda includes a first presentation of the main findings from the midterm evaluation from myself. My name is Giulia Costella and I work for Caribou Space, followed by a live conversation on GDA's progress, key accomplishments, challenges, also strategies to improve financing alignment and mainstreaming within the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank by the panelists I will introduce in a moment. And we will finish with a Q&A slot. So if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A chat box. So today we have the GDA, the core GDA team, starting with Chris Aubrecht, the GDA program coordinator, Alex Chunet, currently EU application specialist at ESA and former ESA representative at the World Bank. And I'm also very glad to welcoming the two new ESA representatives at the Asian Development Bank and World Bank, so respectively Yves Barthelemy and Fabio Cian. So we can start with a snapshot of GDA's progress over two key time points in 2024. Q1, reflecting the midterm evaluation findings, so from the start of the GDA program until Q1 of 2024, and then Q3, so showcasing more recent data. So as of midterm evaluation in Q1, we had completed a total of 124 EO information developments, and these are real-world implementation of Earth observation products or services produced by an organization or a consortium to address international financial institutions teams' needs. Two-thirds of those 124 EOIDs of the 68 completed were actively used by the IFI leads. 45 EOIDs were in progress and 10 under discussion. Moreover, our reach extended to 68 IFI projects across 65 countries. If we now see Q3, we see significant progress. The total number of EO developments has grown to 174 as a result also to new GDA activities starting in 2024, with three-fourths of completed projects now being used. 77 in development, in progress, and in development, while 7 remain under discussion. And the progress of the GDA program is further evidenced by our expanded reach. So we now support 85 IFI projects in 69 countries. I would like to focus now on the usage of the EOIDs within the IFI projects, and we can start talking about the factors that have driven such usage. So we already mentioned that by the time of the GDA midterm evaluation, so Q1 of 2024, about two-thirds of the completed EOIDs were actively used by IFIs. One key factor driving this is the quality of EOIDs produced by the consortia. And this is not just about technical precision, but it's also being clear on how the Earth observation data could be applied in IFI's challenges and what benefits it brings. The expertise, innovation, the reliability of the consortia have helped also build confidence among IFIs. Another important factor has been the flexibility of the consortia. So they've shown agility in adapting the needs of IFIs, and in cases in which project requirements evolve quickly, being able to adjust a new product, a new service in real time has been essential to keep it relevant, to keep it useful. Finally, also fostering a sense of ownership among the IFI teams has been crucial. In fact, by maintaining an ongoing dialogue and involving also the IFIs in decision-making, they felt more invested in the solution. And this sense of ownership has empowered the IFIs to see project as the EO product, the EO data as something they were actively managing. And this has strengthened their commitment to using Earth observation data. Now we explore some of the main challenges that are hindering the usage of EO information developments within IFI projects. One recurring issue is the misalignment between the operational timelines of GDA activities and the IFI project cycles. In fact, sometimes EOIDs don't align with specific phases of the IFI project cycles, which can delay or even derail sometimes their use. And another major challenge is the lack of detailed local data sets, because without accurate and updated data, the development of EO products and service becomes much harder for the consortia, leading to outputs that may not be fully relevant or usable from the IFI, by the IFI teams. Also, when the EO companies don't really communicate the limitations or the uncertainties of their data, this can lead to some misunderstanding, so lack of transparency. And this, again, can result in EOIDs being misapplied or not used at all. And finally, there is the heavy workloads of IFI representatives that often prevent them from dedicating enough time to understand and also integrate EO data in their operation. And this lack of time and capacity can be a critical bottleneck, even if the EOID themselves are high quality sometimes. These barriers can also create a ripple effect. So, for example, data scarcity can lead to a lower accuracy of the EOID produced. And so the EOID is made less relevant for IFI to use, or also a lack of transparency of or time engagement can result in EOID being underutilized, even if the potential is big. We will now look at key factors that enable the mainstreaming of Earth observation technology within the development operations. And these enablers highlight what is working well and where we can build really momentum to drive a wider adoption. The first one is creating strong evidence-based stories to show the impact of Earth observation technologies in real-world applications. Because decision makers want to see how Earth observation can address tangible challenges, like, I don't know, coastal erosion, for example, or urban sustainability. Also, practical skills are really the key. In fact, teams need to know how to use EO solution effectively in their specific contexts. And also internal champion networks, meaning that internal advocates within the IFI can really make a huge difference. These are individuals that are passionate about EO, and they can share their experiences also to inspire others to use Earth observation data themselves. And finally, aligning financial resources and strategy within IFIs is crucial for sustainability. And this doesn't necessarily mean creating a new trust fund, but also leveraging existing resources inside the banks and aligning them with the Earth observation needs. So while we've seen what enables EU mainstreaming, this slide focuses on the barriers that we still need to address. One of the biggest barriers is the high cost of very high resolution EU services, which can be difficult sometimes for IFIs to budget for. And in fact, even if EU brings value, IFI leads sometimes struggle to allocate funds for ongoing services or subscriptions post-projects. Also, the adoption of Earth observation often depends on client countries, but their needs and expectation can sometimes differ from what Earth observation services currently offer. And also demonstrating the economic value of Earth observation solution is challenging sometimes when countries ask what are the savings of using EU data with respect with traditional data. Also, frequent changes in IFI staff can disrupt continuity and it can lead to a repeated awareness building effort and sometimes knowledge loss. And finally, there is the thing that in some sectors like forestry, for example, there are some strong policy frameworks that drive EU adoption because countries are obliged to meet precise standards. But in other areas, without such frameworks, there is less urgency to adopt EU solutions. So now that we explore the findings of the midterm evaluation, it's time to delve deeper into the progress made, the lessons learned, the opportunities ahead. And our panelists will share their perspective on GDA's achievements so far, highlighting case studies, discussing the challenges, the strategies for mainstreaming EU across IFI operations. So I would say without further ado, I would ask Chris, the GDA program coordinator, the first question, which is how would you describe GDA progress at the midpoint compared to your expectations? And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, thanks so Giulia, and thanks everybody for participating and joining for this webinar. It's quite nice to actually have the chance to talk a little bit with all of you about where we've come to basically at the midpoint in the program. It's actually quite amazing if you look back where the program was established by ESA member states back in 2019, just before the COVID crisis started. So obviously the beginning wasn't a particularly easy process. In 2020, all the attention was elsewhere. But we managed to really, I think, establish the program as a very valuable instrument, as something that both external partners, but also ESA member states, participating states, and the industry alike see as something useful, something valuable to engage in. And I think just as a few cornerstones to highlight here in terms of progress, I'm quite happy that by now we have indeed actually started or activated all the activities that we initially laid out in the planning for the program, right? So this means all the thematic domains. We cover 11 different thematic areas by now. Actually, we have an additional one upcoming dedicated to climate adaptation and finance, but that is something new we added actually later on. We have all the programmatic support activities started, so ranging from the M&E one that actually you and Caribou Space are leading, to knowledge hub, analytics processing platform, fast co-financing facility, communications team. So it's quite nice actually to see all of these elements come together. And actually, I would also like to highlight here or maybe specify this midterm evaluation that you nicely introduced is something that I'm very happy about, because it's not a one-off kind of impact assessment of looking backwards to seeing what we did, but it's really a building on a continuous process throughout the whole duration of the program, which is quite unique, I think, in our field of where we operate in. And it gives immense value for us to learn lessons and to adjust along the way and actually improve and optimize our processes. So this is very nice. Maybe in terms of progress, other than having started everything, I think there's a lot of progress that can be highlighted in a few bullet points. So one is, we started with World Bank and Asian Development Bank, and we have Fabio and Alex and also Yves here online, who will dive a bit more in that later. But there is increasing appetite and interest also from other IFIs. We have, signed agreements with IFAD, with IDB. We are intensifying our partnership with the EBRD. We did some stuff with IMF, with AFDB. So you see this whole ecosystem is really growing, which is a very good progress that shouldn't be underestimated. But also, if you look at the IFI projects themselves, we see that Earth observation is being used and requested in all phases of an IFI project cycle. This obviously implementation, but also in preparation, identification, on the evaluation, etc. So there's a lot of progress in various different domains happening. And also, if you look at the industry side, there was a recent survey conducted by ERSC, the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies, which actually had one of the outcomes focused on the work with IFIs. And we see that about 20% of the respondents, which should be kind of representative of the European EO ecosystem, is actively engaging with IFIs and receives funding directly from the IFIs. So this is certainly something that we, I don't want to say we are the sole reason for that, but clearly we have tried to position European industry and facilitate that process. And I think this is well recognized. And this is a very nice progress that we should highlight, I think.
Yeah.
I stop here. I could tell more. Let's move on.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I will have some other questions for you, but thank you for now. Okay, Alex, maybe I can ask you to share with us some examples of case studies that you are most proud of, and what do you attribute this success of this particular case studies?
Sure. So, I mean, building on what Chris was just mentioning, indeed, I think we have made a lot of progress on engaging at the different steps of the project cycle. What that means is that we've been able to mainstream and push the adoption of Earth observation as much within the operational processes of our partner institutions, the development banks, for the preparation of projects, as much as within the financing itself, right? And what that means is that it's not only making sure that World Bank uses Earth observation to prepare the project, but ensuring that then some of the technologies get transferred through the financing to those countries, right? So to give a few examples on the different gradation of this progress and how we come from the preparation and can go up to the implementation and the financing, I could mention the following. First, we have an engagement currently in the Red Sea through the GDA Fast EO co-financing facility, which is essentially focusing on marine and coastal ecosystem. It's a marine and coastal ecosystem assessment. So that's what usually the World Bank does when they want to understand more what's happening in the region, when they want to feed policy dialogue. And really what was needed here is to do a mangrove and seagrass mapping, and also as a quick assessment of carbon stock. And we've managed, together with the World Bank, actually to coordinate a complementary activity where we take care of some part of the analytics. Also, the World Bank funds another part through the same partner that we've been going through in Europe. And so you have this great, well put together activity that is co-funded by each side, where we take care and implement this assessment using Earth observation. So that's really for policy dialogue and project preparation. Then you have the other levels. Another level would be the geospatial planning and budgeting platform that we've been working on. Here again, it's more at the level of the World Bank, but already I would say it's already in the direction of the client countries and the beneficiary countries, in the sense that it's a platform that is elaborated by the World Bank, but that aims at potentially being used by the ministries of finance in order to screen their public infrastructure in terms of vulnerability to climate change. So there's a huge potential to revolutionize essentially public investment management systems. And we've been, again, supporting the World Bank on elaborating this platform, starting to do some pilots and provide it to client countries. And it's now being taken forward with additional funding and financing coming from the bank to essentially take this platform again to another level of maturity and start providing it in a more systematic manner to client countries. Then as we get closer to those client countries, I could give another two examples. There's so many, but I'll just focus on two here. First, South Sudan. We've been working on flood risk analytics in South Sudan, supporting a project called the Regional Climate Resilience Program. Essentially here, as we get closer to the counterpart, the idea has not only been to provide analytics that the World Bank could use and push, but even to transfer part of the knowledge to the counterpart. So the Ministry of Water Management is essentially in South Sudan. And we've done that by elaborating and producing some EO products and data on the flood risk and resilience in the country, and matching this actually with funds and activities of the World Bank on capacity building specifically, so that whatever we were producing and the insights and information we're producing were getting transferred in part to the client. And finally, the last level of maturity I'm mentioning here is the Emergency Locust Response Program, where we are really managing now to have this full transfer of technology to the client country. That's an engagement that we've started already quite a few years ago. And we've been producing different types of analytics on locust, so locust damage assessment, in order to better understand what's been the impact of locust swarms, and also some predictions in the sense that we have been working on egg breeding, the detection of egg breeding areas. The counterpart there has been the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center, ICPAC. And as we've been engaging with these teams over the last few years, now we're finally reaching the moment where a project component of around 4 million is about to be procured to build capabilities and capacities within ICPAC to better use Earth observation and build on Earth observation technologies to do this monitoring of locust swarms, but also actually on droughts and certain climate change variables. So those are basically the few examples I wanted to give, again, giving a gradation of project preparation to moving into financing and transferring skills and technologies to countries, which I think is also really what we aim at. We aim at targeting here the two levels, right? The operational processes and the financing. You were asking at the end of your question what we can attribute this success to. I mean, there is many, depending on each engagement, there's a specific setup, and so that might vary. I think you mentioned some of them in your introductory slides. Of course, there's the satisfaction. We have to produce high quality work. But I would say that it's not only about the quality of the product, it's also often very much about the timeliness. How can we adjust and be flexible and ensure that we meet the timelines of those development projects and the financing or the project cycle, which are very in a sense they are hard to move in a sense. That's something that we really have to adjust to on our side. It's also about managing expectations, right? Managing expectations on what can be achieved and also how it can be achieved. Is it something that's going to be easy to transfer? Is it something that can be produced open source? Is it something that can then be fully integrated by the potential beneficiary? All those things need to be very well discussed from the beginning if you want to have a successful engagement. And the two other quick things I would like to mention are ownership, which you had also mentioned. So continuous communication and making sure that the teams, not only on the side of the development bank, but also on the side of the beneficiary country, feel like they are empowered, feel like the support we are providing is really getting directly to them, and it's not being managed externally by someone else, and it's out of their grasp in a sense. The closer we are to them, the better it's going to go, because the more they're going to be owners of what's being developed. And the last one is to essentially ensure that we work not only on this small segment where we produce a new product and then withdraw, but we think with them about the next steps. Okay, we have developed those layers that that can add value on those specific variables or those specific components of the project. But how could we think about going forward and going beyond? How can we think about building capabilities in the country and developing those other indicators, or building a center, investing on those other components? It's really about also brainstorming on the broader picture here, and I think that's by combining those different factors that you can really have a successful engagement.
Okay, thank you very much, very much, Alex. That was really a comprehensive answer, and you give me more than one case study, so it's great.
Yeah.
Maybe I can ask Fabio, what are your first impressions of GDA and the progress being made in the World Bank specifically? And maybe we can follow up with another question, which is, what are your hopes for the GDA? But maybe let's focus on the first one. What are your first impressions, of the progress being made so far?
Thanks, Giulia. First of all, I have to say it has been exciting to start this position a few months ago. So working for ESA, representing ESA at the World Bank, because ESA, first of all, has been my very first step in my career right after university. So it's kind of coming back to where I started, and the World Bank has been my most recent past, as I've been supporting the bank for the past few years. So now it's very exciting to be here in this position and work for both institutions and try to implement the partnership between ESA and the bank. The first impression has been, I was, excuse me, very impressed by the amount of work that has been done. I had the pleasure to work under the previous initiative, the EO4SD initiative, as a World Bank consultant. So I had that, let's say, experience before, and I can see the trajectory of the amount of work that has been done from the past initiative to the current one. I've seen many steps forward in the way we are working with the bank and supporting the country states. Just to give you a few numbers and why I'm saying I'm impressed about the amount of work. I think there are about 80 projects that ESA has been supporting the bank with, and about 20 of them are still active. So it's really quite a wide portfolio of activities that ESA is providing to the bank. And the second thing is to go more into the details on what I was saying about improvement in the way we are working with the bank. I think the cross-cutting activities that have been started under GDA are really important and are really supporting the way we are, let's say, exchanging information and services between the two institutions. For example, the monitoring and evaluation activity, I think it's very important to be able to understand the direction in which we are going. But also all the activities around communication, I think, are very helpful to let our counterparts, both at the bank and in the country states, to understand better Earth observation, what we are doing, how they can use and implement the solution that we are providing. Maybe let me stop here. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fabio. Thank you. Maybe I can ask the same question to Yves. So what are your first impressions, Yves, of the GDA program and the progress being made in the ADB?
Yes, thanks a lot. So if Fabio said he was new to World Bank, I'm really very new to ADB because I just started 1 month ago at ADB. So I have a lot to learn yet. Okay. Also, first of all, this is a very different house, even if I worked in my previous professional life also with the World Bank. So it's a bank, of course, but it's a different one, different countries, different regions, different organization, different sectors, a different way of working. It's a bit smaller, so maybe it's maybe a smaller family. So it's in a way, it's quite easier to meet people. It's easier so to get connected to people and projects. So no, this is great. I think what my feeling is that a lot has been done in a way already, and I'm not coming into a kind of a virgin territory. A lot has been achieved in the past. I mean, over the past 8-9 years, even previously to GDA, there was the very specific, I think, Asia Pacific EO TAP, and then there was a EO for SD. Now there is GDA. So no, I can see that people know that things happen, that projects are using Earth observation. So that is great. I can see every time I meet a new sector, a new operations, and that there is a huge appetite. Okay. Sometimes also, very often, I must say, a bit of frustration when I tell that a lot of the thematics that GDA was offering are now closed. So they are eager to see what's coming next. Okay, and when can something be also open in a thematic so that they are interested in. It also shows in a way that it takes time before, I mean, for people to hear about, I mean, people, staff and the clients to, before when they hear that something is feasible with Earth observation and finally getting the right setting for starting something. What can I say? Yes, I mean, it's maybe before it was seen maybe as a kind of add-on. It's really seen as a critical tool. Earth observation, so within the ADB, Earth observation, let's say that I am within the digital technology for development team, which is a crucial team, which is really in a way, digital technology is part of the main strategic activity for ADB. So no, that's great. I also measure how I mean the work that is ahead, of course, of me, because and Alex and Fabio and all my other colleagues know that there is I mean, between the time you meet you meet first a staff, an officer who has a need, and the day you really start working and on a very concrete project, there are a lot of efforts to be made. So I'm conscious of that, and it also means that we or I don't know, I will be to be very strategic on the way we approach the different sectors, different internal clients in a way, to make sure that we can scale up without running after, even if we will have to run, of course, always. But so yeah, my first impressions.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Yves. That's great to hear, and yeah, hopefully you will start understanding more and more of the inside of the GDA program very soon. So I go back to Chris, and I can ask you, Chris, maybe what are the main accomplishments of the GDA so far? What are you most proud of?
Yeah, thanks, Giulia. Actually, I think that just listening to Alex, Fabio, and Yves, I would really like to start highlighting team, right? Because I mean, when I took my position back in 2020, when we had no GDA activity yet started, it was basically none of these three were yet there, right? So I think this is a big thing also to highlight, that the team is growing, right? I mean, Alex took on his job at the World Bank, then moved back here to be integrated in the team and take on further responsibilities. Now we have Fabio, we have Yves. I think this is great. Also within ESA, right, our technical officers that help us implement all the GDA activities really need to be highlighted and recognized here. And I mean, we work across the whole Earth observation, directorate in that sense. So this is something certainly to be proud of. Also, I mean, maybe something to highlight what some of my previous colleagues said is, the cross-cutting activities like the M&E is really crucial, because we can learn lessons along the way, right, and adjust. I mean, you mentioned somewhere before the timeline mismatch, right, between IFIs and our procurement and how the industry addresses it. And I think this is something that we are trying to explore. We're trying to address this with new flexibility in ESA procurements. We launched the FFF mechanism, which helps us do that. So all of this is something to be proud of, I would say. But also, I think we can be proud of the achievements on the side of the alignment in the banks, but also that we are recognized as GDA as a driving factor for external uptake focus, and this now leads into this new Earth action vision that this ESA is implementing, and this is really nice. And I think we can move forward because this is what comes next, and maybe we can dive into this a little bit later still.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chris. So maybe now we can switch a little bit in challenges related discussion. So I can ask Alex, what challenges did you experience with achieving the mainstream in the World Bank when you were and as a representative to the World Bank?
Sure. So, I mean, some of them were just mentioned by Chris, right? As he was mentioning, and by colleagues before, Fabio and Yves, regarding the project timelines. So I won't spend too much time on this, but indeed, when one side is rigid, the more flexible we are, the better. And I think that we've made a lot of improvement on this with new activities with the GDA FFF, so fast EO co-financing facility. We're trying new models that are adapted to tackling those rigidities, essentially, and facing those challenges. And that works for aligning with the project cycle, and that works also with being able to engage at any time, right? And that's really what we've been trying to target with this new activity. Now there's things that you won't be able to solve ever, such as the high turnover within those institutions, right? Often you start with a task team leader, so a project leader in a sense, and then this person is going to move to another region or another unit, and then you have to, in a sense, rebrief and try to rebuild ownership of the support that's been provided and where it could go. So this is something that is, of course, gonna keep being a struggle, but that we're being better, we're improving at also facing this kind of challenges, and we're trying to take the necessary measures so that this ownership continues over time, right? And finally, maybe a last challenge is sometimes also the confusion around potential transfer and continuous use, and whether that would entail open source and what open source is really. That there is sometimes, let's say, a difficult dialogue between the space part and the EO data and service providers, and on the other side, the development banks, around what they mean by open source, around what they expect in terms of transfer and continuous use. So this is also something that we've had to deal with. And I think that's why also it's very important from the very beginning to really spell out, okay, what level of transfer is expected, and also to be very clear on the trade-offs, right? It's not because something is open source that it's going to be cost-free. On the contrary, actually, when you want to fully transfer a solution, it's going to need a whole lot of capacity building, and there's going to be steep costs at the beginning, right? But as long as we are transparent and clarify all this from the beginning, which take a significant amount of work, I think that manages to kind of relieve those obstacles and challenges.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all clear. I just want to remind the audience that we welcome any questions you have, and you can send questions in the Q&A box if you have any. So maybe now I can ask Fabio, what do you consider to be the key challenges to achieving alignment of financing from the World Bank specifically?
I think I will echo what Alex has said just now. So I think on one end, I think we have to continue to, let's say, GDA, I think, should continue to evolve as it has been doing in the past years to better adapt on the World Bank needs and the client states needs, always without forgetting that ESA it's a space agency, and we are also driving innovation. And driving innovation means also not only providing innovation in technological terms, but also in terms of business models, for example. And this is something that has been a challenge sometimes in transferring services or solutions, or building capacity to the counterparts, meaning the client states. So thinking about for example, new business models where we can have a blend, let's say, of solution, which could be, I don't know, commercial and open access, could be something that let's say improve the impact, boost the impact that we are able to have on client states. And yeah, and capacity building and skill transfer, as Alex was mentioning, I think it's a key point where we should try to do even better than what we have done so far, and it's a key element of the partnership between ESA and the bank. And it's fundamental, because if we are not, if our efforts are not complemented by a solid capacity building plan or skill transfer plan, then our efforts are not going to be very effective in the end. Thanks.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you very much. I'll ask the same question to Yves. So what do you think are the biggest challenges to achieve alignment of financing from the Asian Development Bank, Yves?
Well, I would say first, I think it's really important. I mean, to overcome the language barrier. You know, I think that often it's really one of the issue is first understanding. I mean, Earth observation world, Earth observation business world, and how bank operates. You know, so that we really understand what is meant by alignment, because sometimes there are some maybe incomprehension, misunderstanding. So that in a way is a key challenge, but it might not be so difficult. It's also a matter, and that's why I guess the fact, I mean, having Fabio at World Bank, myself here at ADB, I mean, we understand more and more how and what are the constraints, what is the language which is used. But it's also true, of course, I guess, for all the GDA consortia that worked with the on all of these projects, is that they are also now getting more and more, I mean, a better and better comprehension of what the language used in the banks. No, another challenge, but again, which is not really a challenge, it's just the reality of a bank, which is in the end, even if it's a development bank, it's a bank. And we have to understand that, you know, they are working, they are preparing, I mean, the core business is to when I say business, even if the objective is, of course, to eradicate poverty and improve services. In the end, it's also that the way they are working is that they are lending money to countries, and so they have to prepare some loans. So it's a challenge to really see how and at which point you can really enter the cycle of all of this, keeping in mind that at ADB, really, there is a very high pressure on officers who are, you know, in charge of preparing these projects. So the challenge will always be to see when is the right time to interact with these people, with these teams. But that it's really what I think we have already mentioned a few times on this critical alignment. I mean, within the project cycle.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Yves. Fabio, I know that you mentioned already, you know, some other business models or capacity building, but do you have any specific ideas on how GDA can really gain momentum on achieving aligned financing and with the mainstreaming within the World Bank? It's like a follow-up question on the previous one.
Yeah, I think we have to work in a way to, let's say, have more ownership on both sides. So we as ESA, we are supporting World Bank projects, but this has to be seen as a collective effort and not just ESA supporting a project, but it should be seen as the bank and ESA working together to deliver solution that can have impacts on the ground. Earth observation can have tremendous impact in given the nature of the services that we can provide. I'm thinking about the capacity of monitoring inaccessible areas, for example, due to conflicts or because there are wild areas like forest and so on. So we have proven that Earth observation can be very effective in the operations the bank is working. And I think, yeah, it has to be seen as something that we do together to achieve the best solution that is possible for achieving sustainable development.
Okay, thank you, Fabio. And what about you, Yves? Do you have any ideas on, how this program can really leverage, some strategies inside the bank to achieve this aligned financing and also the mainstreaming in general of Earth observation?
Yeah. So here it's not really an idea that I have. It's more because my colleagues and the GDA program has already that idea, but it's more I have a lot of I'm waiting for the soon to come a new platform for improving also the way we are communicating. I think this will really be a key knowledge tool. I think that internally within ADB, externally within what we call DMCs, development member countries. It will be a game changer, I think, because when the first teaser I saw, I have the feeling that it will be for me much more easier to communicate on the achievement, what's been done, and the potential. So that will be really a great asset. I would say also that it's really important so we are talking about alignment, of course, within the project cycle, but also to make sure that we are aligning with the bank long-term vision strategy. I know that here it's very important. There is a strategy 2030. There are some important what we call the big bets. Big bets is monitoring the situation, climate change issue and impact in the Hindu Kush region, where potentially 30% of all glaciers will melt if we just stay to 1.5 degree in 2100. And 70% will melt, if we reach 3 degrees. What does it mean? It means that 1.6 billion people living downstream will be really at risk. So this is a very big bet. And I think that wherever GDA, wherever Earth observation can support, this is really important. So it's really aligning with the major issues here, and not to mention air pollution, heat, which is all the teams here are mentioning this every day, every team I meet. So very, very important. Maybe last one. One transformative in a way action here, which is one of the priorities, what we call the digital transformation of countries, clients. So it's important also to understand how Earth observation what is the exact role of Earth observation within this digital transformation, let's say, strategy. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Yves. I have a last question for both Yves and Fabio before going to the Q&A, unless someone wants to comment on something. And the question is, what are your hopes for the GDA program in the future? So maybe Fabio, you can start.
Sure. I think my hope are that we are able to continue let's say, the trajectory that the program has been following in the past year, and make good use of the huge amount of work and resources that have been provided in the past 10-15 years since the partnership between the bank and the World Bank and ESA has been started, seeing the thing from my point of view. I also hope that we are able to keep pace with the technological development that we are seeing in the Earth observation sectors. We have a lot of new sensors and new methodologies and so on, but my hope is also that we are not keeping sight of what we really need for sustainable development, because this program is about achieving impact in this domain. So this to say that sometimes we don't really just need a technological improvement or innovation, but we have to keep in mind that we have to deliver solutions. So we need to operate considering what are our goals. And let me conclude with one thing, because the very first time I met our manager at ESA, Benjamin Kölz, he told me something very nice that I keep in my mind every day, which is the fact that ESA, it's a special place. It's a special place to be and to work, and it's a place where we can make use of our creativity to support, to implement, and to innovate. And that's my hope for the future. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Fabio. That's a very nice message to close with. Yves, yeah, your hopes.
Well, my hopes are, I mean, are at different levels, but the first one maybe is, of course, that GDA takes, I mean, really becomes the in a way the go-to instrument at ADB, you know, in the very quite short term, and that the teams come to the Earth observation team I'm working with to me and asking for more collaboration, for more ideas, for more solutions in the different sectors and thematics. After, more generally, I think I hope also that what we bring is, of course, yes, I mean, having an impact on the ground, an impact also on for all for the client countries, and then the population of these countries who are facing also a lot of challenges. ADB is what I mean is the climate bank. Okay, so it's really around tackling climate change in the region of Asia Pacific. So my hope is that we can in a way be part of that by providing our this global development assistance.
Thank you very much, Yves. Okay. So now I can read one of the
Can I
questions.
interrupt you?
Yeah, you want to, yeah, if you want to comment, go ahead.
No, I just
Sorry.
wanted to, yeah, thanks a lot. No, I just wanted to quickly chime in here because there were a lot of very nice messages, and I would like to kind of take a wrap around that. And, you know, we were talking about alignment, and, you know, while, you know, the audience may not fully understand what do we mean with that, right? So both Fabio and Yves said, oh, we need to be clear what we mean with that, right? So often we talk about alignment in the sense of either scaling up the, you know, EO services that we are demonstrating through the ESA support, through GDA and the other instruments we had before. So basically scaling up, operationalizing a service, but we also talk about complementing those services with associated capacity building and skills transfer activities at the side of the bank towards the clients to make this really sustainable and to foster uptake and adoption on the side of the client in the long term. I think this is really key. And if we look at this alignment, we have a few figures now, right? That through internal surveys we've collected. And we see that for a successful GDA engagement case, this works very well. I mean, we see figures of matching alignment to doubling the amount of investment that ESA puts in place for a successful GDA engagement, both in World Bank and ADB. So I think this is really a big success. Obviously, not every case is working like that, but it's been a mindset shift. It's been a real progress, you know, from when we started to instill this type of new way of working together a couple of years ago. So I think this is great. And this leads me also to a forward look. You know, with ESA, we have now, obviously next year, next ministerial council upcoming, and the programmatic structure of ESA will change a bit. And we are now following this Earth Action vision, which should really cover the full value chain from R&D to operational uptake. And we see the approach that we're adopting in GDA being recognized as something, you know, that can be a driving factor, a pull factor for this type of vision. And I guess we can be very proud of, and we have to keep pushing to make this a reality. So this is kind of a message that I would like to give here also to the industry.
Thank you very much, Chris. I think the question we have from the audience can be linked, to the ministerial, and because we have a question about what do you think motivates ESA member states to support the GDA program? So I think you can answer this question, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that member states, as you know, initially the GDA program was subscribed by 13 ESA member states. By now we have 14 because France also joined along the way. And I think a key motivation is really to internationalize the services that the companies in our member states can provide, right? To really look into untapped markets in a sense, right? So international development is a big market, but it's an underexplored market for EO. And it's clear that member states want to push for that, want to increase that, right? Want to increase the European share in that market. I mean, we saw 20% of companies receive IFI funding. I think there is space to do more than that, right? So clearly we are seen as a facilitator who can help make that happen.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. Now I will read a comment from Thomas Sokup, GSAT. That's not a question, but it's a comment, so I will just read. So he said, Alex talked about management of expectations, but it's also about management of expectation on our side, meaning the consortia side. We would all like adoption process to be much quicker, but it's important to remind ourselves that this is a process, so we need also some patience on our side. He also said in current phase, not all elements supported each other as originally planned. So for example, vertical and horizontal GDAs, but now we have everything horizontal elements in place. I think the cross-cutting initiative maybe. So it is important to keep it running to avoid any gap like between EO for SD and GDA. So keep branding, stay clear on for our IFI counterparts on ESA support and transparent on activities planned. And he also said, in addition, programs shall learn from what have worked still suboptimally. So capacity building element, process, how to mobilize IFI financing, how to better engage with IFI leads, team, local users, and also more flexibility to adapt to IFI schedule time. That's something that we also mentioned. And lastly, said more actionable triple F-like concept might be an answer for many of these. But some of this can be improved only when also the IFI also further move, which can be only stimulated and also supported by ESA. So this is a comment from Thomas. If you want, to reply to that, Chris.
Yeah, maybe I can quickly comment on it, but then I would also like maybe Alex and others to chime in. But I think we are all recognizing these challenges, and we are trying to position, the GDA approach in what comes next for ESA, right? And learn from the lessons we are taking, like the triple F style engagement, right? These kind of things, like that we can't do black and white thinking of not doing capacity building in ESA-funded GDA type programs. So we will progress, we will evolve and take those lessons forward. And I think it will help us become even more effective. But maybe Alex can complement here.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, as Chris, I subscribe definitely to what was mentioned by Thomas. I think indeed that now we have all the instruments to really go full speed and achieve the objectives that we've set. And that triple F, as it's mentioned, is one of the solutions to tackle some of those challenges. And I like this reference also at the end, which is about the fact that it's not the only solution, that we need to keep stimulating and supporting and pushing. And I think that's also why GDA is not your classic ESA ITT or program. It's a program that builds on the network of secondees, on long-standing partnerships, and on where there is this institutional link, which is much stronger, right? Where we co-construct and co-build with those institutions and try to work with them by having people there directly and that work with those teams and that try to co-build within those institutions those strategies, right? And I think that really makes a difference. That what allows exactly what Thomas is referring here, which is stimulating and supporting and pushing the adoption within those institutions. So I think it's going in the right direction, and we're really trying to tackle those different challenges the best way we can, and we're really making a lot of progress. So I'm hopeful that we'll keep progressing on all those angles in the coming few years.
Hey, thank you both, Alex and Chris. One last question before we close, and maybe that's again for Chris. So GDA has focused on mainstreaming EU within development banks. Has there been any consideration of mainstreaming EU within other parts of the global development ecosystem, like leveraging or supporting bilateral ODA, or enabling other actors like civil society, public entities to adopt Earth observation in their development efforts? Chris, maybe you can.
Yeah, this is a very good question, and obviously, I mean, there are multiple answers to that. I would say that, you know, the GDA type approach is really focusing on development finance, right? Development cooperation and the finance component of it. Obviously, we have other instruments in ESA with which we closely liaise with, right? That engage directly with civil society or directly with counterparts in the developing countries, etc., more on the R&D side. We really focus on the uptake by stimulating external finance, right? But indeed, we're trying to broaden. I mean, we are now in GDA exploring, in the current phase of GDA, exploring how to more work on a strategic level with the big funds, right? The climate funds, the environment funds, GCF, Green Climate Fund, Environment, Global Environment Facility, climate investment funds, you name it, to really kind of tackle the leveraging of development finance in a bit more holistic manner. So this is now upcoming, which we will do through this GDA climate adaptation and finance activity. Also the question on, let's say, national development agencies, right? And I list a few that we are already engaging with actively. So it's the AFD in the French Development Agency, but also KfW, the German Bank for Reconstruction and Development, I think it's the translation. So we are trying to do some pilots with them and see how this could complement what we do with the multilateral development banks. And to wrap up, I think also our increasing engagement with the European Commission's DG INTPA, the Director General for International Partnerships, should be mentioned here, because Alex already highlighted earlier on that, you know, we try to establish more at the regional level certain centers to foster uptake of Copernicus data services and associated information products. So all this should be, you know, perceived as a conglomerate of approaches and of instruments that ESA is trying to put in place to really foster external uptake.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris, for wrapping up. I think we're now coming to the end of the webinar. So I really want to thank Imperative Space for organizing this session, and especially our panelists, so Chris, Alex, Yves, and Fabio, for sharing your views on the progress of the GDA program, and also, you know, the hope for the future and what want to improve. And last but not least, I want to thank all the people who joined us today. As I mentioned at the beginning, the recording of the webinar will be soon available on the GDA website. So if you want to rewatch it, or if someone couldn't watch it live, you can still do it later. And yeah, have a nice rest of the day. Bye bye.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.